Saatçilik dünyasının merakla beklediği bu sene 26.'sı düzenlenen SIHH fuarında Richmond grubunun davetlisi olarak ben Serdar Ağal ve ekip arkadaşım Emre Şişman'la beraberiz. Fuarın yıldızlarından IWC bu sene pilot saatlerini yeniledi. Bu projenin başındaki Sayın Jagle ile birlikteyiz. Welcome to Horobox. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being with us. So it's 2016 will be the year of pilot's watches,
yes.
And you are the person who is on the head of this project, as far as I know.
No. One of the person working.
Okay.
Actually, the whole company has been working on this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so pilot's watches are really very specific. And for IWC it is an important line in the collection.
Yeah.
So when did you start to compose the new models of this year?
It depends on the models. I would say we normally start 2 to 3 years in advance. 2 to 3 years in advance? Yeah. So
okay.
We're already working on what's coming in 2018, for example. Yeah, and then it depends on the complexity of the models. Especially if we have movement development, it takes even longer. But normally a watch with a given movement is like 2 years. Yes.
Yeah. So we saw a couple of months ago a new model of Big Pilot with the jumping stars. It was one of my favorite.
Yes.
So what is your favorite? I mean, what are the new models which are quite interesting for you? Can you tell us something about these new models?
Well, if we stay in the same theme that you just mentioned, Le Petit Prince, because that was the story of the moving star.
Yes.
We have one piece which is very beautiful in the Petit Prince line. It's an annual calendar, so the latest haute horlogerie publication that IWC launched last year. It's a very beautiful timepiece in a red gold case, a Big Pilot red gold case, and we have as an aesthetic highlight the Petit Prince standing on his planet as a rotor in solid gold. So it's really a nice addition to our special editions for Le Petit Prince, limited to 250 pieces.
250 pieces, very nice.
So this is one highlight, and if I may point out another one, so here you can see our Big Pilot heritage watches. They are really inspired by the observer's watches of the early days of flying. And here we took inspiration from a famous Big Pilot Capital 52 TFC. At the time, the most impressive and the biggest pilot's watch IWC ever built, 55 millimeters. It's huge. And we actually launched it in 2 versions, one which is a little bit more accessible in a 48mm titanium case, which you can see here. But we also really did our collectors the favor, and we brought back the original 55mm format in this very impressive watch.
Yeah. This is limited to 100 pieces, if I'm not wrong.
This is limited to 100 and here to 1,000. Yeah.
So apart from these pilot watches, this heritage story is getting really more famous every day. So shall we expect some more heritage models in the other lines of IWC in the near future?
I mean, why not? It depends on the model. I mean, we have watch families which are younger, we have watch families with a huge history, and the pilot's watches, for example, are one of the product families that are most rooted in history. So we have exactly 80 years history of pilot's watches this year. So 1936 was the first pilot watch that was launched, and ever since, I mean, we have produced series of pilot's watches, iconic timepieces, so it's really something that is in our DNA, and we are proud of this heritage, and of course we use it also as a starting point for interesting new developments and design interpretations. Yeah, so you can expect more.
So that was also one of my questions. Shall we expect some new models after this exhibition during the year? So I think we will have also Watches and Wonders this year, but between this period, do you think we will be able to see some new additions to the collection?
I mean, on the pilot's watches, we are really presenting everything we launched this year here at SIH. Some of the models will be launched a little later in the year. For example, the pilot's heritage watches won't be on the market before October, but we show everything we have. But nevertheless, you know, we do a lot of special editions. The big pilot's watch is always a big classic or special editions, limited editions. And so, yeah, there might be some more things to come.
I was going to ask you this question, but you have already replied. So when shall we expect these new models on the boutiques and the dealers?
The main part of the collection will come in April. It's only selected references like the time zoner and the pilot's heritage watches. They will be on the market in October, and the annual calendar in June. But the rest really in April.
So there's also one point which I want to ask you. When we see the IWC collection, we see the most models on the pilot's watches. I think it is more or less 19 pieces in the collection. Even the oldest collection, Portuguesa, you have less number of the watches. So what it means for IWC? I mean, it is the most commercial line of your collection, or
I wouldn't say it's the most commercial line. We also have the Portofino, for example, which is also very commercial in some countries, especially. But nevertheless, the pilot's watches should be accessible. And this is really something we wanted to emphasize with this new line as well, to have a broad entry-level segment who really can bring people to our brands with a lot of choice, a lot of variety. So you will see that we added color variants to our top-selling classics in the entry-level segment, the Mark 18, the chronograph. And we really wanted to broaden this to become a luxury pilot's watch for everyday use.
So if you are talking about the pilot watches and IWC, of course we have to mention the name of that famous and important guy, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry.
Yeah.
So how you are getting impressed while you are designing your watches with that important name?
Well, we are always impressed because he's such an inspiration. He was a passionate pilot, he was a passionate engineer and a great storyteller, and those are all values that are very close to IWC. So, yeah, I mean, we have those two sublines. We have the Santex watches, as we call them internally, and we have the Bleu Petit Prince watches, which became in the meantime really an independent line. And yeah, we constantly look for occasions in his life. For example, last year we did the last flight to commemorate his dad, and we look at books he wrote, for example, or for famous planes he was flying. So yeah, those are the inspirations.
He's a very important guy for the pilot watches.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The last question. I see the movements and the design. So, what is more attractive for IWC in these days? You concentrated on movement developments or changing the designs of the watches? Difficult question.
That is a difficult question, but honestly speaking, it's not really related. I mean, at IWC we have a big movement development R&D, and we have a creative center of almost 15 people, and they are working in different cycles, I would say. I mean, the base movement development, and you know that we have announced important projects last year at SIH in the basic segment, chronograph and automatic. And these are important projects that our engineers and constructors and movement designers are working on. At the same time, of course, we're working on design, but that is a shorter cycle. So designing, most of the design happens in that 2 to 3 years before the launch, whereas movement needs 4 or 5 years. Of course, we need to design a movement for a specific watch case and vice versa, but I would say it's for quite some time quite independent.
Finally, you keep these two separated, but somewhere
they need to come together. Yes, yeah. And I can assure you we're working on both
Yeah,
very
I
hard.
can. Okay, so thank you very much. So finally, would you like to say something else regarding this exhibition? So how is it going? What are you expecting? Soon we will have a press conference here. So what will be the start of this collection this year?
Well, I think I showed you already two. Then we will have the time zoner, which is another technical highlight of this collection. And you will see that we've done a lot of detailed work on our icons, on the big pilot, on the Mark 18, on the Chronos. We reduced diameters. We really wanted to make this as sporty, elegant, and as wearable as possible, this collection.
Okay.
And yeah, it's always, for me, it's such an emotional moment if you see that all coming together. We've been working for so long.
After spending a lot of time and hard work.
And then you see this booth and everybody doing their jobs, and it's really amazing, and it makes one proud to be part of the family.
Shall we expect to see in Turkey in a short time in our country?
I would hope. Yes.
You know, Mr. Kurt Klaus is coming to our country very frequently. So if you can manage, we would like to see you there.
Perfect. I like our Turkish friends. They are so kind, and yeah, why not?
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for being with us. Horobox'ta kalın. Röportajlarımız devam edecek.